that was like the best moment of 2018, was being able to walk away from that race knowing that I had one of the best times I had ever run in an awful year. So imagine what I can do in a great year.
Hello everyone, welcome to Developing Champions with Dr. J. I'm your host, Dr. Julie Warnick with the Texas Center for Sports Psychology. Today we have a very special guest and a friend, Kendra Chambers. She is a United States professional track and field athlete. Welcome, Kendra.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for being on the show today. So I want to start off with back in 2016. It was a highlight of your career. Can you go back and talk about that special moment?
Sure. 2016 is the Olympic year. It was Olympic trials and I had qualified. I just kind of barely made it in, and I felt really nervous about going to such a prestigious meet. It was my first Olympic trials that I was actually competing in, and I was just really excited, really nervous, but I felt really ready and I was really fit and physically ready to run fast. I came in ranked about 30th, and during the rounds and during the meet, I gained a lot of confidence. I ran really well. I ran some of my best times of the year, exactly when I needed to at the Olympic trials. And I ended up rounding out a semifinalist, and I placed 9th at the 2000 Olympic trials. I was really excited, really happy, and it just kind of propelled my career into the right direction.
That's awesome. So let's go back to little Kendra, back in El Paso, Texas. And you're, starting to do your sports, and you did dance and soccer. How did you get into track and field?
Sure, yeah, I did do dance, all kinds of dance. I did, jazz, ballet, you name it. And then I loved being on the soccer field. I was playing soccer with my cousins, and then soccer at the YMCA, and then soccer at all of my schools. And then I was on varsity my freshman year. And there was a track coach there who just saw my stride and my talent running on the soccer field and, said, hey, you need to come try out for the track team. And I did. And after that, I kind of quit all of the other sports and really just spent my time focusing on developing my craft in track and field. By the time I went to the state track meet, I was 17 years old and getting ready for college. But my senior year in high school, that's when I won the state championship. I just had to make a tough decision. I had, a syndrome in my shins, and I kind of had to pick one surface. And this dancing was just out of the question. It was too much on my legs, and I had to decide whether I was going to pick soccer or track and field. And going into my junior year, I decided to quit soccer, quit dance, and just really focus my last 2 years of high school in hopes of getting a scholarship in track and field.
And a scholarship. So tell us a little bit about your college background and then what kind of led you to become a professional or desire to become a professional track and field athlete.
Sure. So I went to the University of Texas at Austin. While I was there, I was an 8-time All-American, a 4-time Big 12 champion, and I went to the NCAA championships over 6 times on relays and individual events. And being there was such an honor. Everyone on my team was a state champion. Everyone on my team was amazing. And, the people, Olympians who had gone before us, all the Texas Longhorn Olympians and alumni, it was a special place to be. And I felt like that was the best place for me to just really grow my athletic career as well as my academic life as well. And while I was there, it was like, ups and downs. You're a college kid trying to figure it out.
Sure.
And I think for the most part, I was just trying to figure out what was next. And my senior year, I didn't have my coach I started with, and I was kind of questioning on whether I should continue track and field. So my senior year, I decided, just to, end track and field and go into the working force. And after that year, it was just something inside me that was like, it's not finished. You need to go back. So ended up quitting everything, moving to San Antonio, Texas. In 2015, it was my first year as a professional.
This is before we met,
yes.
Right? And you're internationally racing, correct?
Yes.
You were in Italy and Budapest. So tell us about those experiences as a professional runner.
Sure. Being a professional athlete and running track is so different than it was in college. I think for a lot of athletes, we want to be the professionals of our sport, and we don't really have a clear path. And especially for Olympic sports, there aren't clear paths, especially in the U.S., to how to get there. And for me, I was blessed enough to have a coach coach who ran herself as a, Olympic contender and was an Olympic hopeful. So there was information on how to get meets, especially overseas.
Right.
So after the great meet I had at the Olympic trials in 2016, that was my first time going overseas to Europe to run in Italy and Budapest and in London and all these amazing places. And to think that, little Kendra playing soccer would end up running, an 800-meter race in Italy is just amazing and mind-blowing still to this day. I'm so grateful that I get to do this as a job.
Right.
And even though it's hard at times,
Sure.
it's definitely worth it. And just the experience that I've had, as a professional has helped me grow tremendously.
Let's talk a little about the psychological aspects and the difficulties you faced when you were in Europe, kind of pre-mental training. What were you kind of struggling with at the time?
I felt really insecure, to be honest, because I was just a rookie at the time and I wasn't sure about my physical abilities, and my mental thoughts were, okay, well, just try to do your best, or okay, you're an American girl and all of these girls are from here, or all of these girls are international and have run at world championship meets. And, I hadn't grown, I hadn't developed. And I think every time I ran a bad race, which I had a lot in Europe, I was just really down on myself. I would cry, I would be upset. I wasn't understanding the process and really how to handle my thoughts while I was away from home, away from my coach, away from my teammates, away from my regular scheduled program. And when you're overseas or you're at an elite meet, you have to have the tools already there to be able to, block out distractions. You don't really know anyone. You don't know the language. You've never eaten the food. There's a lot of changes that come with competing overseas. And I think mentally I was just kind of out of it and not really prepared.
So what were your thoughts or initial thoughts about possibly seeing a sports psychologist?
Sure. So my coach, Rose Monday, I trust her with my life. So I was like, okay, I'll hear you out on this. I had obviously heard of sports psychologists and, counselors and guidance counselors and, everyone that's there to help you to use those tools growing up. But I had never really experienced anyone, at a professional level doing this really just for athletes. I had never experienced that before. So that was really new to me and that concept was foreign. So I'll be honest, I was a little apprehensive at first.
Sure.
And I kind of thought in my head, okay, I'll do this one time and see how it goes and go from there. But, the first time that we met was amazing. I could tell you were an athlete. I could tell that, you've worked with athletes, you did this before, you know what it takes to be the best. And that's kind of what drew me into just working with you, and being able to talk about my story both on and off the track was really important.
So tell us a little bit about some of the struggles and the inevitable injuries.
So in March of 2018, I just wasn't really feeling well after a workout. And, that happens all the time. It's hard to recover when you're just pushing your body to the limits. And I, decided to take myself into the hospital, and they told me my kidney was failing and they really didn't know why. So I had to stay in the hospital for a week, no running for, 6 weeks and no contact with the ground. And it's one of those things where if you pull a hamstring or, you messed up something on your arm or something, there's a plan on how to fix it. And, you go to physical therapy. But with this injury, with a major organ failing, it was one of those things where can I run again ever? I was, feeling hopeless, feeling kind of alone. I had to kind of train on my own. I was away from my team, away from my coach, and I had to, experience this injury, by myself. And I felt really alone at that time. And I was just focused on how do I get back? How do I get back? How do I get back on the track? So I took about 6 weeks off from running, did everything you could think of, biking, elliptical, swimming, to try to get my fitness level back. And I decided to, keep pushing. And I finally was able to get back on the track. Soon after that, I was able to compete in one of the meets, but it just wasn't the same. And it just felt like I was hopeless and just kind of in this cycle of, am I okay to run? Am I fit to run? Am I physically able to still compete?
Okay, so tell us about May 31st, 2018.
I had tried to, compete before, and it just wasn't the same after my kidney had failed. And on May 31st, 2018, I was invited to a track meet. It's called the Festival of Miles. And, for anyone who knows track and field, the time that I ran there isn't that impressive, but the fact that I came back from a failed, major organ just 2 months prior to that is just a feat in itself, that I was able to get on the line. There was, so many fans there, the lights were on, and I just decided, I'm not going to let this injury, prohibit me anymore. It was over, it was done with. I wanted that chapter to close, and I was standing on that start line just ready to prove that, I had worked all year for this, and no matter what happened 2 months ago, I was still going to show up and show out that day. And I ended up running a 2:02, which is 2 seconds off my fastest time. But it was just, one of those things where I had to persevere and push through. And I was really, really happy that I was able to walk away healthy. I was able to walk away, having a new hope inside of me, having new confidence, and just completely shocked that I was still able to do that after such a devastating injury.
Wow. I wonder, what did everyone think of it? Like peers or coaches?
Yeah, I mean,
family?
I don't think my teammates even believed it at first, and we looked at the clock like, oh my gosh, that really happened. My coach was really happy. Everyone was really happy for me, but most importantly, I was happy. I was satisfied with the result. And that was kind of the thing I was always chasing after was, when am I going to be able to get on the track, but also when am I going to be satisfied with this performance?
What do you think it was like mentally? What got you through that to 202?
I mean, we were working together, of course, at that time. And, I had a lot of stuff off the track that was pulling me away from, really focusing on what was going on the track and my physical training. And then an injury happens, and it's just like setback after setback after setback for me. And that race just really meant a lot to me that year. It was a hard year. It was a struggle year for me. And I think mentally I was at a low spot that year. And to come to that point, that was like the best moment of 2018, was being able to walk away from that race knowing that I had one of the best times I had ever run in an awful year. So imagine what I can do in a great year, and what are the tools I need in place to make that happen. So yeah, working with you just helped me tremendously, get through that injury and really just push for that time and continue a season that I didn't think was going to happen, but ended up happening.
So what were some of the training tools that you think that we worked together that helped you, I guess, prior to us working together and then after? Yeah. What are some of the tools that you utilize in your races, even today?
Prior to working with you, I was a mess, to be honest. But for the most part, I was never satisfied with my races. I was really emotional after each race. And I wanted to run fast, and I wanted to get there quickly. For a lot of athletes, we forget that there's a process. You have to mature, you have to grow into the person who can run that time. So a lot of the times I was always asking, like, what is it that I need to do? I was mentally fragile, I wasn't strong, and I felt really vulnerable. And I felt like maybe I didn't belong here. When you first start out something and you're not very good at it, you doubt yourself a lot. So there was a lot of doubt there for me. And after working with you, you kind of provided me with tools that I was able to go to Europe or go to the Olympic trials mentally strong. I was not only physically fit, I was mentally fit. We worked a lot on visualization. So having a quiet moment, whether that was in my hotel room or even just on the track right before the race, of really visualizing what was about to happen, seeing it happen, seeing, exactly what my stride would look like, how, the grass would smell, how my shoes would feel, like really getting into details about how I would feel at that moment in the race, what the outcome was going to be. That was the biggest thing for me, was visualization that you taught me. And also post-race stuff was just making sure that we saw positives. It was always, 2 positives and maybe a negative, or not a negative, but a takeaway. What could I do better? And that was one of the things that really helped me gather myself after a race. Even if it wasn't the best race, I wasn't an emotional mess like I was before you. I was, mature. I was a professional mentally as well. And that, came with accepting like, okay, there were positives, yes, and there's still a takeaway or something we could work on.
Right.
That was a big game changer for me. And I think without you, I don't think the 2016 Olympic trials would have gone as well as they did. And just all of my seasons after that, I've been able to kind of grow into a mature athlete, whether there was, injuries, whether there was, life stuff happening off the track. Having a strong mental base is one of the important things that you have to have that tool in your toolbox as a professional athlete. There's just so many ways you can get distracted nowadays.
Right.
And I think having a strong mind is just another key factor in being the best athlete you can be.
Yeah, I think sports psychologists, we talk a lot about preparation, but I think it's not just preparation, it's what happens after the mistake or what happens after the event. In the U.S. Olympic trials, only 2 really go on. So I remember even having we had a script prior, but then we had a script after. Right? And how important that is, because you've come so far, and we didn't want to just throw out, talk about the outcome.
Right, exactly.
So it's important to keep things in perspective and have more of a growth mindset.
Yes, exactly. And I know we had talked a lot about, going into that 2016 Olympic trials, but, we wrote out a whole script of what I was telling myself. So talking to myself in my head, what I was saying to myself before stepping on that line at the 2016 Olympic trials. And, the words we wrote were the words, only me and you knew, but those were the words I literally said before getting on that line and, being able to be a semifinalist in the entire U.S. So it was just, there were a lot of athletes who choked that day, or a lot of athletes who didn't show up, and it was because it wasn't a physical thing, it was a mental thing. So I felt extremely strong going into meets like that.
So Kendra, one thing that really impressed me working with you is that you were committed every session. You had your journal and taking notes. Tell us about the mental training and what you put into your work.
Sure. So it was really important for me to be able to take what we worked with me. I know, other coaches, and while you're training, it's like you can't be with them all the time. And the same thing, physically is the same thing mentally for me, is I wasn't able to take you with me overseas. So at those times, when you go home after a bad workout, or you're somewhere in Italy and, the phone doesn't work, or you have to be able to control your thoughts and control what you can control. So for me, I like to take notes while we were talking about our keywords and really just the important stuff and the important nuggets that I got from you during our session, to be able to take that with me. And I think writing it down was really important for me. It was part of my visualization thing, and just writing the keywords over and over again was really good for me. But also the stuff that we talked about, about meets and practices, and just having those positive things in my life, being able to have it in a book. And I could take it with me was really, really important for me. And I think it was part of the reason why I was able to compete well at, international meets, and compete well at meets that you weren't able to attend or be on the phone with me. So it was important to be able to just practice that, just like I would practice, at physically, and I would go out to the track or lift weights. I have to practice my mental preparation. And, I did that at home with the book, and just practicing those keywords and making sure it was a part of my athletic routine.
Awesome. What's next for Kendra Chambers?
Oh, yes. I, spent, the last 2 years injured, and I've decided that, this year is going to be different. I've, have everything that I need. You're on my team. I have a wonderful coach, Rose Monday, and I feel like I'm physically and mentally ready to go. The next thing on my list is making the 2020 Olympics, and it'll be in Tokyo. But first thing is I have to get through the Olympic trials. And in the United States, it's extremely difficult to make the team, and I know that, but I'm up for the challenge. I'm mentally ready, and I'm fit to be able to do that, and I'm going to put myself in a position to be the best version of Kendra Chambers I can in 2020. So look out for me. I'm coming.
Awesome. Is there anything else you would want to share with the audience?
I would just say that it's important to be able to be mentally tough. And I know a lot of people have some type of fear of talking or standing up or just being vocal about their dreams or goals or about their fears and the negative parts of their life.
Right.
And I think for me, the biggest part that I am so proud of myself as a professional athlete, and I've taken responsibility of the mental part. You know, there's so many people struggling today, and I think if we all were just a little bit kinder and a little bit, you know, more aware that everyone's going through something. For me, it was this journey with you, Dr. J, has been a blessing because we become friends. But you also know personal things about me. And for a lot of people, they don't have that person to go to. And even though it's your job to do this, it's also, you know, my job to be the best athlete I can be. And I think when you join forces with people who love what they're doing and they do it for a reason, and we have goals and we have intention, that's the best setup. And I think there's no failure in that. There's no way we can fail doing those things together. So being an athlete and working hard and knowing that I'm physically fit but mentally tough, it's a game changer. And there's no words I can, you know, express, or the gratitude I can express for the type of work that you've done. You've changed my life, and I'm grateful to be able to work with you.
Kendra, thank you so much for being here. If you're an athlete struggling, please give us a call. If you're a coach and you want to take your team to the next level, we're here to help at the Texas Center for Sports Psychology. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, this is Developing Champions with Dr. J.